All right, so in this video, I'm gonna do a quick redo of the Scrum Master video I made a few months ago. So, what the Scrum Master certification is, I took it so that I could fulfill the software engineering class requirement for the computer science degree. So, with that course, there's three ways you could fulfill it. The first way is through WGU itself, through a certification like the Professional Scrum Master, or through study.com. So at the time, I wasn't ready to begin at WGU yet, so that wasn't really an option. And then when it came to study.com, I looked at its curriculum and I did not want to do it because it was well over 100 lessons and there were like three projects you had to do. So I said, I'm not doing that. So this was actually one of the few times where I actually wouldn't recommend using study.com and instead doing a certification. There's three different certifications you could do to fulfill the requirement. I forgot what the other two were called. I think one of them was called Certified Scrum Master. But I ultimately went with this one, Professional Scrum Master 1, just because it was the most straightforward to get. With the other ones, you had to do like this mandatory training that you had to schedule. And yeah, I didn't want to do that. So here's a brief overview. You guys can look through it. Scrum.org official website. Here are the details, right? You got $200 an hour. You got to get 85% out of 80 questions to pass. It is open book, but you know the clock ticks pretty fast. You gotta make sure you're good to go. Background: you don't really need a background to take this exam. It's pretty straightforward. One of the easier exam certifications that I've taken. And then as for how long it took me about a week of solid study. I'd say a week where I studied about 4 to 5 hours a day. Now, onto resources. So, Scrum.org website has free resources for you up here on the resources tab, and then here you can go over the learning series for Scrum Master, and then these are all the different things that you'll be tested on during the exam. I personally didn't I only skimmed through these. I didn't really use these too much just because it was a little bit dry for me. But you should definitely consider these in your locker for sure. So another resource is the Scrum Open Assessment. So with this, what I would recommend taking it right away just to see where you're at, reading the Scrum Guide, which I'll go over in a second, and then taking it in just to see like how much you've improved and what you still got to work on. With Scrum Open, it's 30 questions, and I would recommend getting to a point where you take it 2 times in a row, and both times you get 90% or higher, probably 95% or higher. Like you only want to be missing like 1 or 2 questions. However, that said, I think it's just one tool for readiness. I don't think you should base your readiness off of the Scrum Open by itself. Just because, if you take it multiple times, you're going to be seeing some questions repeat themselves. And then also it's only 30 questions as opposed to the actual test that's 80 questions. So it's just one tool, but I wouldn't solely depend on this. Another open assessment you should take is the Product Owner Open Assessment, which is 15 questions. I would recommend also taking that and also looking to score, I would say at least 13 out of 15, just because you actually get a lot of product owner questions. The product owner is its own certification, but on the Professional Scrum Master, you actually do get a lot of product owner questions. So I'd recommend taking that as well. Now here's my assessment results. I took it back in July, 96%, right, as you can see. So your first resource, first and foremost, is going to be the official Scrum Guide. And this is one of the areas where I actually disagree with what other people have said on YouTube. So a lot of people have said that you only need the Scrum Guide and you'll be good to go. Like just read it a couple times and you'll be squared away. Maybe that worked for them, but in my experience, that the Scrum Guide by itself is not enough. It's not. So, because I read it about 3 times and then took the open assessment and I didn't really improve all that much. So, definitely read it and read it multiple times, but I wouldn't solely use this to pass the exam. But absolutely read it. You can download it right here. It's a quick read. It's like 15 pages. So the main resource I used was, and I didn't have this pulled up, but I'll have it linked in the description. It's a book called Scrum, a Travel Guide. And that book, I read it on Kindle. It was like I think it's about 200 pages, and that book honestly went over Scrum a lot better, in my opinion, than the actual Scrum guide. So I'll link that in the description. I think it definitely helped me get a really good understanding and feel a lot more confident for the actual exam. Now, when it comes to practice tests, yeah, I use the open assessment, but the open assessment, again, I don't think is enough to really gauge your readiness. I would go with these Volcardon practice test, 420 question bank. I think it's about 5 full length practice questions, practice tests, where each one is 80 questions, and they're very similar in wording to the actual exam. So, if you pass those exams consistently, you'll pass the real one, no problem. So I highly recommend these practice exams. Oh yeah, you see here 5 practice tests, and then you'll have 120 question bank of extra difficult. Now, what's good about these is that a lot of the questions on these practice tests will have questions like select all that apply, and you have to pick all the right answers. That's actually harder than the real exam, because in the real exam, it'll say pick 2 answers or pick 3 answers. So in the real exam, they'll tell you how many questions are right and how many you have to pick. Whereas in these, they just say select all that apply. So again, these are actually harder than the real exam. And if you pass these comfortably, you'll be 100% good to go on the actual exam. So highly recommend this as your practice exam resource. Overall difficulty, I would probably rate this certification about I'll give it about a 3 out of 10. So you got to put in that legwork for sure. I don't think you could pass it in a day. I don't know. Some people say they have, but I don't think that's too realistic. So that's why wouldn't rate it like a 1 or 2. But it's also not that hard. Again, it only took me about a week. So it's not that hard. One of the easier certifications, but you still got to put in that work. But that's all I got for this. Talk soon.